Welcome to an exciting half hour of Caribbean Connection with special musical guests Jimmy Cliff and the legendary Harry Belafonte.
My childhood in Jamaica, I think, has had more influence on my life than almost my childhood days anywhere else.
We'll travel to the beautiful island of Barbados and introduce you to a delicious Caribbean dish. All this and more on Caribbean Connection. Caribbean Connection, sponsored by and now your hosts, Maurice Lindsay and Lisa Morotek.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Caribbean Connection. I'm Maurice Lindsay.
And I'm Lisa Morotek. Today we're going to take a look at culture, Caribbean culture that is. We'll take a look at why the people, the romantic resorts, and the delicious cuisine of the Caribbean are known the world over.
And I'll be introducing you to the music that is of this rich and fascinating culture. You'll meet two legends of Caribbean music, one of whom is about to join us right now. Please welcome Harry Belafonte.
The sea will wash against the rock.
The rock stands strong, the rock is strong.
The sea will wash against the rock.
But before too long, the rock is gone.
The wind will blow against the stone.
The stone stands strong, the stone is strong.
The wind will blow against the stone.
But before too long, the stone is gone.
Patience, gentlemen, we move closer every day. Patience, gentlemen, storm will soon give way.
Our lives are the line.
We are the wave, we are the flow, we are the wind, and soon the rock must go. We are the wave, we are the flow, we are the wind, and soon the rock must go. You cannot hold back the tide.
The tide must rise, the tide must rise.
It's the Lord of earth and sky.
The tide will rise, the tide will rise.
It's as natural as day to night,
Day to night, day to night.
as natural as black and white.
Black and white, black and white.
Patience, gentlemen, the flower grows through the stone. Patience, gentlemen, it's a truth that we have always known. We are the wave, we are the flow, we are the wind, and soon the rock must go. We are the force, we are the fire, we are the moon, moving higher and higher. We are the force, we are the fire, we are the moon, moving higher and higher. Amandla! We are the wave, we are the flow, we are the wind, and soon the rock must go. We are the wave, we are the flow, we are the wind, and soon the rock must go. You cannot hold back the tide.
Closer every day.
The wind will blow against the stone.
Yes, the stone will soon give way.
The sea will wash against the rock. We move closer every day. The wind will blow against the stone. The stone will soon give way.
Caribbean Connection will return with the words and music of reggae superstar Jimmy Cliff.
Welcome back to Caribbean Connection. Jimmy Cliff's talents goes way beyond the singing he's so well known for. We were fortunate to be able to talk with him recently to find out what makes this unique artist tick. His album, entitled Hanging Fire, was recorded in Africa. Jimmy Cliff describes for us this unique experience recording with African musicians in Zaire.
I've always had a global view. I've been listening to African music for a number of years, and I've been wanting to tap into some of that music and bring it to the public. But the opportunity only arrived last year while I was in Zaire. When I brought it to Jamaica, we took things out and added things to it because of the sound quality to match up with the sound quality that we have here, because of course over here is high tech, and in Africa when they record we concentrate a lot more on the feel rather than on the technology.
Yeah, the hourglass is almost empty. It's a great loss for who had plenty. There's no turning back the hands of the clock. 'Cause when the hot clock comes, fire gonna burn and it's hanging fire. And when the hot clock comes, where you gonna run in the hanging fire? It's a fire, 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 the trigger is drawn and the hammer is down. It's the early dawn. Oh, that awful sound when the day breaks and the hurt breaks. 'Cause when the hot clock comes, fire starts to burn in this hanging fire. And though the hot clock busts, where you gonna run in this hanging fire? It's the fire, hanging
That was a great song. And now for a Caribbean Connection exclusive. Here's Maurice to tell you more.
The man you're about to meet is known around the world for his pioneer achievement in music and theater. He's also a humanitarian in the truest sense of the word. As I'm sure you've already guessed, I'm referring to Mr. Harry Belafonte. Harry Belafonte, welcome to Caribbean Connection.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
With your involvement in the UNICEF organization, what additional impact do you see in the coming years, especially in the Caribbean and third world countries?
I believe that in the last years there has been an enormous initiative on behalf of the people in the developing world, or the third world as some call it, to really and truly take an initiative for self-sufficiency. I think that for a long time in the post-colonial period, in the period of early independence, when most of the countries in the developing world have been experiencing this new way of life, the responsibility to be responsible for one's self, one's nation. I believe that there were a lot of errors made in the beginning. A great reliance was put upon the benevolence of European industrial nations and on the United States and Canada and Japan. And a lot of people felt that there would be a greater return for that encounter. I think that the results of that have been people have come to understand that there is nothing can replace the ability to develop self-sufficiency and to be able to rely on one's own ability to produce. There has to be a whole process here to talk about how do we get people educated and how do we eliminate illiteracy. In the meantime, those of us who have looked at this as a long problem decided that we in UNICEF would begin to talk about using the tradition of oral communication. And with a symposium that was convened in Senegal, people gathered together from all over to talk about how do we use our singers, our musicians, our painters, our storytellers to go off into the rural areas and among tribes to be able to disseminate information about the importance, for instance, of immunization. Let me tell you the importance of immunization for a second. Immunization means that the 40,000 people, the 40,000 children a day who die from diseases that are curable, like smallpox, measles, whooping cough, polio, those diseases that are curable, people don't even understand what the process is to stop that encroachment upon on the health of a nation. We went around and had to demonstrate to people that the use of this tablet or the small use of this needle would make a difference in the life and the health of the children of a community. It took a long time to convince people that this, in fact, would happen. Once that idea took hold, people would not only marvel at the fact that this simple little process was able to make such an important impact on the people of the community, but then they began to ask questions. What about the future? They began to get into questions about health care. They began to get into questions about diet. And then we began to show people how it was possible for them to not wait for the United States or Europe or whatever to bring grain and whatnot. There were certain things that they could do with crops that already existed or seeds that already existed that could be turned into important food. This might seem like a slow way, but it is a sure way. We can do it quick, as we had tried to do before, and nations have tried to do before and do it wrong, or you can take your time and do it right and make it everlasting.
Also, what's your impression of current U.S.-Caribbean relations, and what advice would you offer to improve relations?
I think for the last 8 years in particular, I think they've been pretty bad all along, let me say that, from the get-go. Since the end of the Second World War, when the United States became somehow responsible for much that dictates world behavior, especially politically and economically. I believe we've had less than a sophisticated policy towards the developing world. We have not done much to really and truly be compassionate in how we conduct our affairs in terms of the needs of the people of the Caribbean and other parts of the developing community.
Of all the fabulous calypso songs that you've made famous, do you have a favorite?
Well, I'll tell you which one is the most popular. It certainly is the Banana Boat Deo. I mean, people don't even call me Harry anymore. I walk along the streets and little kids who have just seen the movie Beetlejuice all holler, "There goes Deo," you know, and like sometimes it's a little disconcerting to not have your name remembered, but the title of a very famous song. Like all the songs, when I'm asked the question about which is my favorite, it's like, what's your favorite meal? It's like breakfast really serves one purpose, and there's certain things you want, and lunch serves another purpose, and desserts vary. What fruit do you like best? I could say mango, but then when I really taste the banana, you know, the songs of the Caribbean, it's hard for me to pick a favorite. I'd say Island in the Sun is perhaps the most significant because it came with a movie, and it did things to give people a heightened understanding of our struggle in the Caribbean, but I love them all.
Coming right up, more music from Harry Belafonte. And we'll touch down on the gentle sands of Barbados when Caribbean Connection continues.
Welcome back. Now fasten your seatbelts. The Caribbean Connection Travel Guide is about to take you on a discovery tour of magnificent Barbados.
Picture the world of Barbados. It's a world of color, excitement, beauty, action, and peace. But more than that, it's a world overflowing with a special charm, a charm so special it cannot be matched anywhere. For Barbados is different. It's culturally rich, historically exciting, and incredibly alluring, with a gentle sophistication and maturity that sets us apart from the rest. It's a world where vacations make unforgettable imprints, a world every man deserves to experience at least once in a lifetime. An eastern shoreline where huge Atlantic rollers pound the rocks and wash miles of deserted sand. It's a surfer's delight. And by contrast, the lush green countryside with its rolling fields of sugarcane. And after you've experienced all the historical and natural treats, picture the action, all the fun sports you can imagine. Whatever your sport is under the sun, you'll find it in Barbados. So when you picture Barbados, picture more than just a tropical island. Picture a nation.
I smell something good coming from the kitchen. It's time to find out what's cooking on Caribbean Connection. Using the popular Jamaican allspice, here's Joan Goldburn.
Have you ever heard of the spice pimento? That's what we call allspice in Jamaica. Hello, and greetings from the island home of this unusual spice. I'm Joan Goldburn, and today I want to show you how we cook with allspice in Jamaica. You do know, I hope, that allspice is not a blend of spices. It's a single berry that just happens to taste like a combination of cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg. If you were blindfolded, you might first mistake allspice for cloves, but then you'll find it's really milder and smoother. There's nothing quite like allspice. Perhaps you've used allspice in cookies, pies, and cakes, but in Jamaica, we use it mainly with meats and in soups. For example, it's also an important flavor in one of our popular dishes we call jerk pork. This takes its name from the fact that in Jamaica, it's cooked in very high heat, and you have to jerk the meat back and forth to keep the meat from burning. It begins with a spicy paste which goes on the meat. To make it, first I'll put 1/3 of a cup of water into a blender or food processor. Next, add 6 scallions cut in 1-inch pieces, 1/2 cup of sweet red pepper chunks, and 4 large garlic cloves. Now for the spices. 1½ tablespoons of ground allspice. This will be the background flavoring. Now add 4 bay leaves broken up, then 1 teaspoon each of thyme and salt, and 3/4 of a teaspoon each of red and black pepper. Cover the container and whirl until smooth. In Jamaica, we marinate the meat overnight, but you'd probably like to do it quicker, so I'll show you how. Now for the meat, I'll use pork chops about 1 inch thick. So that the good flavor quickly penetrates, I've pierced each chop in several places. Now, brush the meat liberally and place it under a preheated hot broiler for 8 to 10 minutes on each side, brushing occasionally. You won't have to jerk the pan continually like we do back home, because your broiler doesn't cook on both sides at the same time. But you can still call it jerk pork, and your guests will call it delicious. If you'd like the recipe, just write the station and ask for jerk pork Jamaican.
Once again, here is incredible Harry Belafonte.
Finder, the card is quick. If you catch the black eye, you catch the trick. So make you move, boss, but it could fool you. That's paradise here in Gaza and Kulu. Watch the card, don't watch the hand. It could take you to the promised land. Oh, Siciliana, my shipping queen. She ain't too pretty, but she body neat. Lots of good things that she'll do to you. That's paradise here in Gaza and Kulu. How much you pay, how much it worth? To get up into heaven here on earth. Oh, the bells of Zion tell you to pray. For the life hereafter, they make you pay. But I'm just dealing, not trying to rule you. That's paradise here in Gaza and Kulu. Take a chance and I'll show you how. You can go to glory now. Watch the card, don't watch the hand. And try to catch me if you can. I ain't no touchy, I ain't that mean. My cards are tricky, but my game is clean. How much you pay, how much it worth to get up into heaven here on earth? Good Johnny, ha! On the Shangan Opa Ho, I do the African rope I do. Sit on. Now you see it, now you don't. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you won't.
We've come to the end of another Caribbean Connection. I'd like to thank our musical guests, Jimmy Cliff and Harry Belafonte.
And thanks to our chef, Joan Goldberg, and to the Barbados Tourist Board for showing us their beautiful island.
We hope you've enjoyed Caribbean Connection and that you'll join us next time. Now here's our address if you'd like to write.
Caribbean Connection, made possible by Caribbean Connection is a Lindsay television production.